in a minute, but I will tell you that we did this for the first time last year, and it went over very well. So this is a great opportunity to ask all those weirdo questions of what life is going to be like, or work environment is going to be like, and when you guys get out of here. So, whether Nicolette wants to go first or Quentin wants to go first. If you would, tell these nice folks when you graduated, what you did for work while you were here, and then what you did after you graduated, and what you're doing now, and where you think you may be going.
Okay. So I graduated in May 2015, and I was working at the Peabody Hotel the entire time, and I worked my way up to front desk supervisor. I was able to have enough experience that I tricked some people into working for Hilton Corporate. So I work for revenue management support now, and started out as an analyst, and I worked my way up to a specialist, and we'll see where it goes from there. But I would like to be a regional director of revenue management. That's a work from home position. So it's,
flexibility is important.
Exactly. So that's my goal right now. We'll see. But Hilton's a great company. I love working for them.
My name is Amanda Brewer, and I actually graduated in December of 2010. And while I was in school, I actually worked front desk at the Hampton Inn and Suites Bill Street downtown location. Loved it. I worked there for 4 years at the property level, and I originally started at front desk, but I really loved sales. I convinced my GM to allow me to go on a couple sales calls alongside the current sales manager that was there, and just said, hey, I'd love to be able to get more development in the sales world, because I had zero hotel experience to even go into sales. So then we had an opening in the sales department, and they created a sales assistant position. And I did that for a few years, and then I was a sales manager, and then really led the sales efforts for about 2 years after that. And I really wanted to move up into a general manager role, but believe it or not, my background was pretty singular with, focus service experience, or just that Hampton experience, where I kind of struggled to get a GM role for a while. And luckily, through some of the connections that I had through the Cummings Wilson School, I was able to get an interview at Hilton for a position called an advice manager. And as an advice manager, it was very different from sales and what I was doing. It was really kind of working in a call center environment. And so I did that for a couple of years. I've been there really almost 6 years now, which seems crazy. So in March, it'll be 6 years that I've been at Hilton. And I've held about 3 different roles, 3 or 4 over the 6 years. But right now my title is I'm a director of hotel leader support, so kind of come full circle. So the team that I first started on, now I manage, and so we have 15 team members that are on my team that really are there to support questions that come in from hotels. And my ultimate goal is to be back on the sales side, but at the brand level, and really be over sales initiatives and launching sales initiatives and driving revenue to the portfolio of hotels at Hilton.
I am Jeanne Cummings, and a few of you I saw just the other day, so hello again. I graduated in December 2015 and was working at the West End at the time while I was there. I was there for about 2.5, 3 years. I was promoted a few times and moved all the way up to sales, and then quickly found out that was not for me. And so then I became a front desk supervisor, and from there I actually was looking for something else because I wanted a little bit calmer schedule, and reached out to Mary Schmitz, who I had done an internship with, and she works at Memphis Tourism, which is formerly the Memphis Convention and Visitors Bureau. And she was looking for some part-time help, so I cut my hours back and then worked part-time there and part-time at the Westin, and ended up getting a full-time position. And so now I work for Welcome to Memphis, which is a subsidiary of Memphis Tourism. But I go around and train people like you, or people who are on the front line at restaurants or hotels or attractions, and I teach them how to know, share, and love Memphis. So I teach them all about what Memphis has to offer. We give them the ability to go and experience Memphis so that they can share it with their guests. And we also tell them a little bit about what Memphis is as a tourism industry, because it is such a big industry. So that's pretty much what I do.
What you want to do next?
Oh gosh, you
have
know
any
what?
idea?
I'm so in it that I have no idea. I don't know yet. I've got a few things that I am thinking about, but who knows? I'm just gonna see where it takes me, because I really like where I'm at.
Mayor of Memphis.
Mayor of Memphis.
Mayor
It's
of
a great
Memphis.
idea.
I'm gonna be the new gym stripper.
Okay. Alrighty guys, I'm Nicolette Barnes. I'm the director of catering at the Holiday Inn Memphis Airport. So I am your typical millennial. I was not loyal during college, the college years. I kind of bounced around from hotel to hotel. So I was originally a journalism major when I first started. Didn't work out the first semester. I came over here for a computer lab one day. I met these guys. They kind of started telling me about the program. I was like, I can do that. Got a job in a hotel at a front desk. Was overlooked for a front desk manager a couple of times. So I left there, went to the Sheraton. It was the Marriott at first, and then it transitioned over to the Sheraton. We had 600 rooms. Within 2 months, I was the front office supervisor at 19. So I was going to school 18 hours, leaving school 3 to 11, going to work. After that, I'm trying to think. Okay, so I did the Sheraton thing. Kind of got to be too much. A slow day for us was 250 check-ins. I know that sounds crazy, but 250 check-ins was a slow day. It was a little bit too much, so I transferred over to the Marriott. They only had about 250 rooms. So I was like, I can handle that piece of cake. The problem there was most of the people that I managed were my classmates. We would be in class together, we would leave class, go right to work. So it was kind of hard to manage the classmate versus manager relationship. I got the opportunity to open up Bass Pro Shops when it first opened. I was assistant front office manager. I stayed there about a year. It wasn't for me. I was so used to the corporate hotel, the corporate setting. There was more so, I would say, leisure travelers. Like we had people asking us just to get a tour of the room or where the bathrooms were all day. And I was kind of just over it. I graduated 2015 in December. And I finally, I was really nice at the front desk to this lady named Beverly Davis. And she just loved my personality, and I went to an interview for sales coordinator at the Hilton, and she was the person that interviewed me. She remembered me. She gave me a chance as the sales coordinator. Throughout my career, I was always the person that you would probably say was the boss's pet. And I really wasn't trying to be the boss's pet. I'm just really, really nosy. I like to know everything. I like to know everything that's going on. I like to be the person that say, you messed it up and I'm the one that fixed it. Hey, here I am. So I was that person. So I always did my boss's job to where my boss could be doing something else. So I always was able to get promoted that way. So I was doing convention manager work. I was managing most of the groups because most of the event managers were just not doing their job. And I was overlooked for that position. And I moved to the DoubleTree. And I was a convention services manager at the DoubleTree. I did really big events. I was there for 2 years. And now I am the director of catering at the Holiday Inn Memphis Airport. So I wasn't loyal, but I got a lot of experience. The biggest thing I can say is never burn your bridges. Just because you are leaving a place does not mean that you will not run into somebody again. Me and Jeanne, we run into each other all the time. I can only imagine if I was nasty to her in class. She works for the CVB and she knows all of those guys. So just remember, with whatever you're doing, wherever you are, it's always somebody watching. You may not see them, but they see you. Always turn in a 2 weeks notice. Always leave on a really good note because I can go back to any job that I had there, like come back. So that's me in a nutshell.
And the hospitality industry in Memphis is very small.
It's very small.
It feels big, but it's really small.
The industry is
Really, really.
But it's growing.
Oh, totally.
It's growing.
Totally.
It's growing.
That's
It's
what I
growing.
mean. But all the people, it's kind of,
Yeah.
you know, even when I was a sales assistant, that's when I first met Chris a long time ago. And little 24-year-old at Hampton Inn. I remember walking into my first meeting being like, whoa, for the CVB.
Before we move to questions, I'd like to start with Nicolette and then move back the other way toward Quentin.
Okay.
And what would you recommend in general terms to these folks where they should be heading from this point forward?
Make sure that you already have a job in the hospitality industry, whether it's waitress, server, busboy, front desk, valet. Know the business, learn your boss's job. Don't just take what people tell you. Try to understand what's going on, why it's going on, and when it's going on. I was always the person that left school, and if I didn't have to go to work, I wanted to go home and lay in the bed. But really take the networking opportunities. Everything Cummings Wilson has, go to those events. Because the people that you see there will be the people that you see later in the working field and in your interviews. So that's the biggest piece of advice I can give you guys. Take advantage of all the resources. The free stuff, while it's free. Take advantage of all the resources while it's free.
Yes, exactly what she said. But also just make sure that when you do go to this job, whatever it is, just know that it sounds really rude and I don't mean to be rude, but like you're not above cleaning toilets. You're not above being a housekeeper, being like a busboy or bus girl, like whatever. Do the dirty work because then it'll look better. The more that you go further in your career, it'll look like, oh, okay, like she started at the bottom and now she's here, you know, but just don't think that you're bigger than a certain job because there's no way that a whole business can work if not everybody works together. So even when I was a supervisor at the Westin, I was still making sure that the rooms were clean, making sure that they were properly supplied with everything that they needed. Even if it was for an elite guest, I was like, listen, we need to make sure that this, and this is in here. And even now, when I'm at the CVB, I still go back to the Westin because they need help. I'm not above going back there. I loved my Westin family. It's changed a bit, but it's still like home to me, but I will always have a special place in my heart for hotels, but it's just, you have to make sure that you're not above the dirty work.
And just to piggyback on what she said, working in all positions, it makes for a great manager. You know what that person is feeling in their housekeeping position. Housekeeping is like one of the hardest jobs in hotels that are normally overlooked, but when you've done it before, you can feel their pain. So if it's a day you can shave off some rooms and let them go home early, you've done it before, you know how it feels. You can give them that same.
Yeah, and ask
that
about
same leisure.
cross training too. So I cross trained in housekeeping and front desk. So when I was at the front desk, if they needed somebody to go and inspect rooms, I could do that for them because they were shorthanded. So just make sure that you're always trying to put another foot forward and trying to be the best that you can be because that's going to get you the farthest.
I think the things that I would highlight are more about there's more to hospitality than just the hotel world. I think that's an important mindset for you guys to have is that I think honestly Jeanne Marie kind of taught me this. Remember we had this conversation earlier this week is that we've been a part of the Alumni Association, at least I have for a few years, and you know, for so long, you know, we've talked so much about Hilton and because we're here in Memphis and there's a lot that we can offer, but there's so many departments within Hilton that are revenue management focused, and I want to steal your thunder. Openings and renovations, like if you have a passion for opening hotels, or it could be project management, IT, accounting. We're hiring like 100 finance and accounting majors over the next year and a half at Hilton alone. Digital design, web design. There's so many different facets that you can go into from hospitality. And it's not just boots on the ground hotel experience. It's great to have, and I definitely think it's nice to have while you're in school. I know it was great for me, but I will say some of the things that could also help you now is keeping a positive attitude, which I know is really hard in our world today. Whenever, but I think that's one thing that's always served me well. Is I tend to kind of show up and I say I'm going to try to make the best out of today, regardless of what it throws me. And I think that's always served me well, no matter what role I've been in, what job I've had, or even just personally, right? Because there's so much of our personal selves that we bring with us every day to work, right? You don't just walk out the door when you walk into your job, you're not who you are, right? So I just think that's a good mindset to keep, because if there's one thing that's always changing, it's everything. And there's not a lot of constant, especially in the hotel world. And you've got to really learn how to roll with the punches and keep a positive attitude. And that's what's going to make you shine over the person beside you. Someone that's negative, constantly complaining, can't adapt to change, they're the ones that aren't going to move forward while you do. So that's just a really important one to keep in mind. And my third, and I'm sorry because I talk a lot, is business acumen. If there's one thing that I would have wished I would have paid more attention to while I was in school was there was a class, I don't even know what it is now, but it was about hotel statistics and about understanding ADR, RevPAR, revenue, understanding the occupancy of hotels and being able to really pinpoint the value of a property. In my world today, that's one thing where I still sometimes have to do a lot of that numbers crunching and really talk about performance with hotels. So I wish I would have done that more at the hotel level, is being able to get with my general manager and look at a P&L statement, look at the revenue of a hotel, being able to understand really the numbers and the business part of the hotel. Because yes, it's the customer service aspect, but success in our world is about making owners who own those hotels money. And the more you can speak to the money piece and the behind the scenes, that's really where you're going to shine above other people that didn't spend time in those areas.
So, all what they said. No, really take advantage of being a student, because you'll never have an opportunity like this to go up to your general manager or whoever your manager is and say, hey, I'm a student, I'd like to learn this, can you take some time? Can I sit in on a meeting? Anything like that will greatly, well, one, it'll show your manager that you want to move up and you're willing to come and talk to him about it. But another thing is take advantage of people like Chris. And does anyone know Susie Zaney? Is she still teaching here?
Suzanne.
Susie.
Suzanne.
Yeah.
Is she still here?
Anyway, she taught my revenue management course.
Susie.
Yeah,
Love
Susie.
her. Susie.
Yeah,
Okay, so
last night, as a matter of fact.
Okay. So she taught my revenue management course, and that was like my first real introduction to revenue management. And that was a semester before I graduated, and I bugged the crap out of her every day about getting a job with Hilton. And then whenever I graduated, maybe a month later, she called me up when they had an opening. So take advantage of being a student.
She did my resume for me. Well, she edited my resume. So your teachers, they really are your biggest, one of your biggest resources.
Yeah, and I'll just say, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I would not be where I am today without Peggy Callahan. She's the one that actually got me my internship. So just make sure that you have good relationships with the faculty as a whole, because they're really the ones that are going to advocate for you and say, yes, you do need to hire this person, or they're just going to give whoever it is your name, and they might call you and say, hey, we hear that we need to hire you, because that's what happened to me with the Westin too, is I got a call from Patrick Jordan, who was the GM at the time, and he said, I hear that we need to have you on our team. And I had never heard of the Westin in Memphis. I didn't know that it existed. I had never heard of Patrick Jordan, but it turned out to be one of my favorite things that I've ever done. And hospitality, again, is not just hotels. It is restaurants and attractions, and I am learning that every single day working at the CVB or Memphis Tourism. But just know that you don't have to work in a hotel to be in hospitality. You don't have to work in a restaurant to be in hospitality. You can do so much stuff with hospitality, and it's the coolest thing to me, because you really can go anywhere, literally anywhere.
And you're in sports management? Is that not this class?
That is not this class,
Gotcha.
but that's part of the department.
Gotcha.
That's still really cool if you ever think about it. Like they gotta manage the Grizzlies traveling and everything, so they gotta talk with people at the hotel.
So that takes me to where I want to go.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
I will be either at the new convention center, or I will be running the FedEx Forum. So one day you see us set up for a Grizzlies
Like,
game.
get my card.
Yeah.
The next day we're gonna be set up for a Tigers game. The next day Disney on Ice and the Monster Truck Show. So that's essentially where I'm trying to go. One thing I can tell you, to win your boss over, if you ever trying to win your boss over, if you find a problem, do not just take the problem to your boss. I already have a solution in mind. 2 or 3 ways. Just a suggestion. Just already have something to suggest. If you're gonna find a problem, I already be thinking of a way to fix it. It'll shine light on you, and you just never know.
Let's open it up.
Before I forget, because we ain't got a lot in common. That's why I've been over here, right?
Okay.
Because I see how you said that you wasn't loyal.
Okay.
By you flip-flopping jobs, currently now, I work 3 jobs.
Okay.
And I'm full-time in school. And I recently got a job offer.
I know, right?
So, yeah, I've been over here writing like. And I recently got a job offer. And I currently work at the FedEx Farm.
Mm-hmm.
And I find a conflict with my scheduling.
Okay.
But, like, I got a job offer for Chick-fil-A. And at the FedEx Farm, I've been there since 2014. And I know Chick-fil-A, it comes with benefits and I can move up.
Okay.
So, I'm kind of in the headspace where I'm kind of lost.
Okay, so I would say you need to weigh the pros and cons of which one is better for your life, which one gives you the better work-life, school balance. You can always go to your manager if it is formed too and tell them like, hey, I really don't want to leave the company.
Yeah,
I've been
I
here
talked to her
so
today.
long. Like maybe we can just cut my hours back, or I can be on call to still be here to assist with you guys. But at the core root of it, you have to do what's best for you in your career.
I used to work for Chick-fil-A.
Yeah.
That's
That's what I was gonna say. That's a
And
Chick-fil-A.
they have excellent customer service, so everyone will be able to see that on your resume as you move
Mhm.
up, and they'll see that you've been trained there. And like my sister works for Merrill Lynch in Nashville. They contract Chick-fil-A to come up from corporate every 2 years to train them on customer service. So, anyways,
Highly recommend.
yeah. So Chick-fil-A is not a bad option.
I know, and then see, that's why I'm kind of lost because like I'm sitting here and I gotta make this decision, then I gotta make another decision. But like at the same time, like you said, loyalty, because I've been at the FedEx Farm since 2014. I done worked concessions. I done moved from concessions to catering. I done moved to leave it. Like now I'm
What I
training.
can say is if you were a good worker, and your boss knew that you were a good worker, they would understand why you had to move on to
And like
do
she
what's
told
better
me
for you
today,
and
she was
yourself.
like, do what's best for you. But at the same time,
You can't be scared to leave a job.
Right,
You can't be
that's
scared to grow.
right.
You cannot be scared to grow. You gotta take that leap, guys. You got to step out on faith. Like I said, in Sheraton, I was really stressed out. A normal shift front desk is 3 to 11. You may get 30 people or a tour bus that come in at 10:55. You're not off to 12:30. You got your first class with Mr. Ron at 7 o'clock. And he'll never teach you
Well,
7
not with
a.m.
me.
class. He will never teach you 7 a.m. class.
No.
But you know, your first class is at 7 a.m. So you have to do what's best for you. Because the worst thing I did was almost flunk a semester trying to work. You've got the rest of your life to work. If I could go back, I probably would not have worked. Money was not that important during college as I then thought that it was.
and see how I was like, a lot of people ask me how I balance it. Like, I always say, like, I'm a secretary at home. Like, I got a calendar the size of that whiteboard.
Yeah.
And I've been playing every day I got school, every day I got a job, every day I take off. Like, I got it balanced, but it's a conflict with the days at the FedEx Farm and the days that she needs me to do Chick-fil-A.
So what you can tell your manager at FedEx Farm is that I am accepting a job at Chick-fil-A. Each week when my schedule comes out, I can go ahead and give it to you. And then if you have something on your schedule for me that works with my schedule, then I'll come in and work. But if not,
Worst case, you'll have to take a break.
Yep.
And you can always go, if she thinks you're a good worker, you can
Mhm.
always go
you
back.
can always go back.
But
Is
also
the
be
Sean
mindful-
still working?
Yes, I talked to her
Yes.
first about it.
Yeah.
I talked to her first about it. Then I asked my sister.
Sean's
then I
awesome.
asked my manager. And now I talked to her, so now I kind of got her. Yeah.
But also be mindful and don't burn yourself out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With 3 jobs and
With
school
3 jobs
full-time,
and school
yeah.
full-time, yeah.
Okay. But see, like, I got a paper here. Like, I don't know what's wrong with me. Like, this is like my whole schedule. With 3 jobs balanced out.
I was going crazy with one.
I was like,
Like, I got it balanced. It's just when I get opportunities, I kind of get stuck because I don't. Even though I know, it's like,
Take
I
the
looked
lead.
it up, like Chick-fil-A, they got
Take the lead.
scholarships in.
If it's a better position, more money, and more chance for you to learn some new stuff and grow, you gotta take it.
I think all 4 of us are like, go to Chick-fil-A.
But yeah, I think so. We both Chick-fil-A.
I just wanted to make sure that I was, because I said I was going to do it, but I wanted to make sure. I told my manager, she even said on mouth, like, if I need to come back or want to come back, I got to.
That's a seal of approval. Take it.
Yeah.
Go.
Because I was stressed out. I was stressed out all day.
Be at peace.
Yeah.
Other questions, more questions? I know you've got questions, because I'm gonna collect them in a few minutes.
Quentin, What would you say was the biggest difference between working in the hotel compared to working in a corporate office?
Oh, God. Everything I learned in school, I started using at corporate, whereas at the hotel, I felt like I was using more of my just like natural people skills and just your natural like think on your feet. But when I started working at the hotel, it's a lot more projects, like all my Excel skills had to be revamped. I had to start learning new things like SQL. It's a lot more of what you're learning now that you'll put into place. And like she was talking, the business acumen, learning, I'm sure you will have a course if you haven't already, revenue management, anything with statistics, things like that will, if you can take all your notes and then keep those and save those. I used all my notes to prepare for all of my interviews that I had. But other than that, just keep your contacts well too. So Chris came to me for, there was an opening at the mentor program, which I knew nothing about. It's like all the business school stuff. And one of the guys was from Hilton Corporate, and he didn't have a protege. And so Chris came to me, he's like, hey, you should be that guy. So I mentored under him, and with doing that, I got to know quite a few people at Hilton, and that also helped ease my way in there. So just reach out to people. And you can totally grow, just keep growing that.
I was supposed to be a cowboy for Halloween.
I will say what's cool too about working at the corporate office for Hilton is they have a big focus on thriving and what we call it really just kind of our work-life balance and a focus on flexibility in the workplace and also amazing benefits. We just recently got recognized for the number 2. We're the second best places to work. The second best places to work. And I forget exactly. It's not from Forbes. I always forget.
I think it's the best places to work.
Yeah.
.org or something.
Yeah,
like that.
yeah.
But
We really think it's really
yeah,
fancy.
It's nice.
It is nice. And I think that's just one of the biggest changes is that when you go from a property level, most of the properties have separate ownerships and different management companies, and it just depends on who you work for and those benefits. And when you come over to the corporate side, there's definitely a wonderful benefit to working for such a well-known company that focuses on their team members. Oh yeah, and then don't forget the hotel discounts whenever you travel personally.
Those are very nice.
If you work for certain companies, like me, I live downtown, I work for Holiday Inn, they give me like a 10% discount on my like utilities and other stuff like that. So it's perks with working with certain companies.
Listen, y'all are making me want to work for Hilton.
My roommate works for the Hilton Hotel, like the actual hotel event setup, and I know his
Yeah.
discounts
What's his name?
on Caleb Walton.
I know him.
Yeah.
I worked there for 3 years.
Yeah, that's my best buddy.
Like,
But I know his hotel discounts are like ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like we got to stay over spring break for like,
$45 a night.
yeah,
Just about. Yeah.
like unbelievable.
Or, yeah.
Did you have another question?
What did y'all, like, what specific things did you do while you were still in school that, like, really helped you network and, like, figure out and find these great jobs?
Well, let me just stop for a moment. Can you folks back there hear all the questions and answers?
Sorry, I mumbled.
Okay. Sorry, go ahead.
Get on your teacher's nerves.
Yeah.
Make sure they know you on a first name basis. He knew me on a first name basis. He would be coming out, Mr. Brown, and he's like, "There's Nicolette, Miss Ina." Like, just make sure they know you on a first name basis. Know that you're a good person. They see that you're working hard and that you want better and that you want more for yourself. Like I said, I didn't attend a lot of the events, but when I could, I made sure I did, and I made sure that I wasn't just a wallflower. I made sure that I was active and participating in what was going on, and people knew that I was there.
Yeah, this pretty much the same thing. Like, just make sure that you're showing your face as much as you can, but mostly just work as hard as you can when you're in class, and don't be afraid to use office hours to go and ask like whatever questions you need, and don't be afraid to like stay after class for a minute if you need anything. Like, just make sure that they know who you are, because when they see that you're working super hard, they're gonna say to whomever it is that they're talking to that says, "Oh, we're hiring," they'll remember who you
I
are.
got a person for that.
Yeah.
I would say find out what you want to do, what you think you want to do at this stage in your life. Find out what your the job you have now, what area can give you more experience towards that job that you have. Go for that area in your current job, and then you can maybe transfer to the actual job that you want or something like that, because you already have experience that can apply. You can always tailor your resumes as well. I didn't learn that until like after I graduated, but you can kind of like say, oh yeah, you know, you don't want to lie, but you can definitely tailor your resumes. So
Yeah.
I should probably stop talking about it.
Now, speaking of that, just let me interject again for a moment. The chef's dinner here, 2 weeks from tonight, who in this class is involved in that?
Are you guys still cooking for it?
Yup.
Yeah, okay.
Great. First of all, it's a great event.
Still.
It's a great event. It's a great networking opportunity. And I'm not sure if you have to be a class member or if you can volunteer. It's not my event. But if you can be there, if you can work, if you can have dinner, whatever you gotta do, if you can open the door for people, it's worthwhile, because everybody in the, well, I won't say everybody, a lot of people in our industry are gonna be there.
Yeah.
And it gives you a chance to get a little visibility like these folks are talking about.
How confident is everybody with their interviewing skills? For the longest, I think that was what was causing me not to get jobs. I was really nervous, like sweating during interviews. Like before I went, I was really pumped, but then when I got there, does anybody struggle with that when you're going on interviews? And they ask you the question like, why should I hire you? And you're like, oh, I'm nice, I should be on time, and I'll be on time. So I would just say research each job that you're going to. Already know a little something about the company, know their motto, their logo, their vision. Try to just drop things like that throughout the interview about yourself. Try to make yourself be that person that they're looking for. When they ask you about yourself, I used to always answer the question wrong, like, hey, I'm from Memphis. I like shopping. Like, that's not what the question is for. It sounds crazy, but a lot of people, even at 30, they still make that mistake. So they're asking, basically, why are you the best person for that position? You can say you're going to save the company some money, do some extra work, you are flexible. Like she said, you have a can-do, will-do attitude. Those are the types of things that you want to say in your interview. So I will say that because early on, I was terrible in the interviewing stage.
And I would say ask for mock interviews from your managers too.
Yes.
And if you're confident, you ask whoever would hire you in the future for a job that you want. You ask them for a mock interview if you're in that position that you can.
Mm-hmm. And I always ask them.
Then you
if they had
pretty
any
much already
questions
did your
for you.
interview as you grow. So.
Yep, I always have questions for the person that's interviewing you. So that's why I said look at the website. Say, so what do you guys expect for me to do within 90 days? Or just something of this sort. I always have a question to expect to show that you're truly engaged and interested in the position that you're applying for.
Another thing is that, and it's kind of like off topic from this, but
They need life tips.
yeah, like, just make sure that when you decide what you want to do, just know that that's not the only thing that you can do. Because when I was in school, my ultimate goal was to be a general manager.
Everybody's watching.
No,
And that's the furthest thing away from my mind.
I
Never
don't
actually
ever
did.
want to do that. No.
Furthest thing
And
away
it's not
from
like
it.
anything
No.
against GMs.
Mhm.
Y'all have a hard job, and I'm proud of y'all for doing it. But your girl's not going to be doing that because I want to do something else. So just know that you go in with a goal and keep that goal up there, but it changes, and it changes a lot, and sometimes you never know.
And I think a common misconception is you do not have to be an extrovert to be successful in the hospitality industry.
Mm-mm.
I think that's another common misconception,
Yeah.
is that people think, oh, well, I have to be really bubbly and really outgoing to be really good at what I do, and that's totally not the case. I mean,
I've turned into an introvert.
yeah, right?
Yeah.
No, that's just because we hit
Yes.
30.
Yeah.
I used to love being around people, and I still do. But since I worked in a hotel, I'm like,
I will say that they've been ragging on the hotels, guys. Because they're so let me tell you, I am a sales manager and I love my job. Every day I go to work is something new. I don't know what I'm gonna walk into. Maybe I've told them to set the room up for 200 people, classroom style, and I come in and it's round tables. I gotta kick my heels off. We gotta roll some tables in, some 6-foot tables in. So every day is something new. We go to a lot of free parties.
That's true.
yeah,
Right.
there are a lot of
There's a lot of
Sales
industry
is great.
events. Sales
remember
is
being
great.
in sales.
Sales is the best part. I'm not really an operations girl. I like the Monday through Friday, 8 to 5 type deal. So if you're looking for Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, some weekends, then most definitely come and talk to me. We can talk about sales.
Yeah, when I worked at the hotel, I used to have the best stories, like of all the
Oh,
stuff
yeah.
that's ever
Yeah.
happened to me. And now I don't have it.
His life is boring. His life is boring. I can tell you some stuff that happened this morning.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely a slower life not working in a hotel. I
Yeah.
kind of miss it
It's just
because
different.
it's a lot different. Yeah, like we had a lot of celebrities that stayed with us, and I've met a lot of people, and it was really, really cool, and I've got stories for days. But now I just work in an office, and it's still a lot of fun. I get to put on fun parties and go and shop with people.
Well, you have to compete with, story-wise, you have to compete with Horseshoe was in a couple weeks ago, and Romeo,
Oh yeah,
and talk about some of his high rollers
yeah.
with their little quirks,
How about that?
idiosyncrasies. And then Doug Brown was in a month ago or so from the Peabody, and of course.
That's
talked-
why we never got any celebrities, because all the celebrities always stay with the Peabody. or the
Peabody,
Westin.
Hilton, Marriott East,
Yeah,
Westin.
yeah.
Those
We
are
did-
the
at
top
the
hotels.
Hilton, I got Snoop Dogg one time. That was it. And that's because I think Peabody
I got
sold
Ozzy
out.
Osbourne once, and he mumbled at me, and I felt like I had like reached a peak.
Kid Rock threw a $1 bill at me.
Yeah, see? Nice. We've
Those
all been
darn-
touched by
Those darn
fame.
Republicans.
I won't talk about
Yeah.
those stories.
He's not a fan anymore. So.
I got most of the rappers.
I got most of you
Biggest mistake.
in life.
I'm not prepared to talk about
Like that's a whole different
Well-
class.
Let's not get too personal.
I would say for me. Ooh.
I would
Oh,
say
my.
don't trash talk your previous employer.
Yeah.
Not something that I really did, but it's something I saw some friends do, and that, you know, as you move forward, those people, like, Memphis is really small, the industry as a whole is really small.
And
So,
people talk.
yeah, it, like, Memphis has so many connections to Orlando with the IHG people. Someone tried to get a job from the IHG team to the Orlando, what is it, Orange?
Oh,
Orange Lake.
Orange Lake,
Orange
yeah.
Lake, yeah.
Yeah. So, anyways, people were trash talking and got around. So just don't do it.
I don't know why I'm finding this is such a hard question.
It is
It's
a
not
hard
that I
question.
haven't made any mistakes, because Lord knows I have.
These are the people.
Well, yeah, I think.
If you need to think about it, I'm sure Jean Marie's got a whopper at those.
That's so rude. I mean.
No mistake, but a delay for me. I only took 12 hours when I was in school at first. I didn't know I was supposed to be taking like 18 hours to finish in 4 years. Like, it took a lot longer because I was only taking 12 hours. So if you got the time and you're not working and you can take more classes and you can handle it, go ahead and especially your general ed classes, go ahead and knock them out the way.
I
Go
don't
ahead,
know if it's
knock
a
'em out the way.
mistake, but part of me wishes that I had started working earlier in a hotel, or in the industry as a whole. I mean, I'm happy with where I'm at now, and I'm proud of my success, but I wonder what might have happened if I had started earlier. But also, okay, big mistake. Not like a big mistake, but something that I wish that I had worked on is networking. I'm still really bad at networking because, believe it or not, I don't like to go up and be like, hey, I'm Jeanne Marie. I just think it's weird. But it's something that I have to do every single day. But I wish that I had learned earlier how to network better. And that's something that your teachers can absolutely help you with.
Yeah.
So.
I think maybe some of my mistakes have been around confidence, and I'll just kind of go like in the workplace, and I've always felt, even as I sit here today in front of you guys, with my background is somewhat singular, so meaning I've only ever worked for Hilton products, and I've only worked at one hotel. And my role now, and the role that I'm in, I'm one of the youngest people in my department, and I started working at corporate whenever I was 26 years old, and that's a very, there's been multiple times where I was very intimidated by the environment that I was in, where I did have a lot of, and I still do, I have a lot of value to bring and had a lot of thoughts that sometimes I may have not spoken up about, you know, because I would let that kind of intimidation take over. And I think that's sometimes where I'm definitely happy with where I am, and I feel like as I've gotten older and more experienced, especially in the corporate realm, I do have more confidence, but it takes time to get there. And that's one where, I don't know, like sometimes I wish that my older self would have told my younger self, no girl, that was a good idea, right? You should have said something in that meeting and not said, oh, well, I'm just 26 and, you know, I'm getting my feet wet, you know, I'm getting my feet wet here. So yeah, I think that would be one, is just be confident in who you are and what you bring to the table, because age doesn't define your value. Yeah.
But be confident, not cocky.
True.
There's a huge difference.
Totally.
And I was in a
Totally.
meeting yesterday actually where there are 2 people in my office who are in their 20s. Everyone else is like 30 and above. And so we are the youngest people. But we were in a meeting yesterday, and we were talking about the event that I had just put on and how it went and some things. But the way that she was saying things, and I really respected everything that she was saying, it was right. I agreed with her, but the way that she said it was just a very, I don't want to use the term millennial because I am a millennial, but it was a very millennial way of
She
saying
had
it.
opportunity with positioning.
Yes, yes. There's a way to say things, and I completely agree with, like, you need to say what you're thinking because your voice needs to be heard. But make sure that you're saying it in a way that is going to be respected and not just like, okay, grasshopper.
Yeah.
Okay, calm it down. Because a lot of people stay in this industry
Yeah.
for a long time, whether they move from hotel to hotel or from corporate back to just one property or whatever it is. People stay here, and so they know what's going on, but we also know what's going on. So be confident in what you're saying, but make sure that you're saying it in a way that's going to be well received. Because that can also either make you or break you.
Other questions?
How would you say the importance of flexibility plays into working in the hospitality industry?
Huge.
Ooh, everything is everything.
You have got to be flexible because, like Nicolette said, every day is different. I don't work in a hotel anymore, but every single day is different for me. I could be in 4 meetings in one day. I could be at my desk all day. I could be talking to a room of 250 people. I could be talking to 2 people. It doesn't, like, I have to be ready for the next thing. And in the industry that we're in, it's weird how quickly it moves, how slowly it moves, but how quickly it moves as well. So things take a while, but when they're there, they're there. And so you just have to be ready for anything.
Plus, if managers know you're the flexible one, they'll always call on you for stuff, which
Yeah.
usually, you move up
Makes
faster.
you look
that way.
good.
Makes you look
Yeah, you want to be easy to do business with, not difficult.
Yeah.
You gotta be really flexible. I was working at the Hilton. I'm reading like that your friend work said. We go in that morning, we have our stand-up meeting at 9:15. By 10:30, we got a new general manager walking in that does things totally different from the way the old GM did. We went from a really laid-back, relaxed GM to a really stern GM, like we can meet down in HR if you don't like what I'm saying type of GM. So you have to be really flexible to people's attitudes and the way people do things. You just gotta know, even if you don't think somebody is right, if that's the boss, you just kinda gotta roll with it. And if you don't roll with the change, you'll either get rolled over
Yeah.
or left behind.
The other thing with flexibility is making sure that you are kind of at a level 5 all the time. So my mom always says that if you're in an emergency, you want to call me, because when everything is up here, I'm here. Because if everyone's screaming, you don't need one more person screaming. You need someone that's like, okay, let's do this, this, and this, and then let's go from there. So you've got to be flexible in your moods as well.
She's always been.
So you just have to know your levels, but that's a big part of flexibility as well.
I'm so glad, because I'm at level 10. I'm not
I
good in
got you,
emergency
girl.
situations. I'm flexible.
I got you.
Just don't let there be an actual emergency.
Oh, I got you. Call 911.
Like level 2.
Yeah, and that's one of the things we
Quentin's
always
like,
say too, is that at
yeah.
one of the things we do in our world is we say no one's going to die on the table, because although there's things that feel like emergencies in our world, a lot of times we have to say, okay, let's back up. We're not surgeons. No one's right here on the table. We're not about to kill anybody,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That's how I get through my day.
Yeah.
To remain flexible.
Yes, definitely.
It's like no
Yeah.
one's gonna die on the table. We're not doing surgery over here.
What else we got for these nice folks? Anything else? Anything you ever wanted to know? Anything you folks want to add that we haven't talked about?
Have fun. It's a really fun life in the hospitality industry. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna ask, have y'all only stayed in the Memphis area working wise, or have y'all ever traveled and stuff like that? Had experience?
So one of the roles that I had within Hilton is I did, I've always lived here in Memphis. Memphis is my home. I heart Memphis, for real. We'll just recognize that for a second. But I did travel a ton. So for my second role within Hilton, I traveled teaching a class, which was a lot of fun. And I was in 3 different Hilton products a week, which was a lot. And at the time, in my late 20s, it was like the dream job where I was like, oh my gosh, I get to travel. I get to see, I went to Canada, I went to Mexico and things like that, but I never traveled like to the UK or anything like that with it. But I traveled all over the States, and I think that's another thing that's great about Hilton in any job is there's so many jobs, especially a global company, where that you can go and work in different areas. There's all types of flexibility. So I did get to stay in a lot of Hiltons and meet with a lot of team members and teach them about kind of the Hilton way of doing things, and that was highlighted my career, a lot of fun. But after 2 years of doing it and being in a hotel all the time, I was like, I would like a job where I don't have to travel, thank you. And luckily they found me one.
So Memphis is like an untapped job market. Like if you go to Dallas or New York or Nashville even, it's gonna be so hard entering. It's gonna be really competitive. Whereas if you get a job, get your feet wet here in Memphis, at least get some experience first before you leave Memphis. I think that would be better if you can.
And
Yeah.
this currently why I took the director of catering. I love Hilton. Did not want to leave Hilton. I was happy every day, went to work, walk out skipping. But I needed this step up so that I can relocate. A director of catering position is gonna look fabulous for a convention center hotel. When I try to move out of town, you can't tell me there's nothing I can't plan. If I can do, I got 60,000 square feet of space. There's nothing you can't tell me that I can't do.
That was the one thing too that we did share the last time we did this is about things you can do now or regrets. It was about, I wish that I would have spent more time on a foreign language and be able to market myself as someone in the industry today that's bilingual. Whether I could speak Spanish or, we have 2 team members right now that are Mandarin, that speak Mandarin on my team, because pretty much we run a call center. And so it's, we're always looking for people that can come in and be, flexible, whether they can support hotels in Asia Pac, hotels in the Cala region. Like we need more individuals, and so the people that we're hiring now is like that's one of the key things that we're looking for is are they bilingual?
It's more pay too, guys.
Yeah.
More pay.
The other thing is like with where I work in Memphis tourism, we've got a team that travels to go and sell Memphis. So there are 8 of them at our office, but we also have 2 people. One is stationed in the UK, one is in Australia and sells to Australia and New Zealand. But because of our markets there, we not only have an international salesperson at our office in Memphis, but we also have those 2 over there. So you can be stationed one place, and then, like Lisa is gone. I look at her calendar, like your calendar, but hers is that as well, and she's just got marked out, like she'll be in the UK, and then Japan, and then New Zealand, and then Germany, and then it's the next month, and that's all of November, and then in December, she's got, I don't even know, but she's everywhere, but she lives here, and so you can go and do these really cool things, and that's something that I would like to do, I think, because I heart Memphis as well. I've lived here my entire life, but there's something about going and telling people about something that you're passionate about and getting them to come and buy into it, and I think that's like one of the coolest jobs that we have at MT.
Honestly, I regret never studying abroad because I was working. I most definitely would have took a leave of absence from work and studied abroad.
Yeah.
Have any of y'all ever studied abroad, like when you were in college?
Nope.
And like
Everybody worked. We all
all
worked.
worked. And
Yeah,
I
worked.
wish I would have gone like whenever there was the opportunity to go to Florence. I think which
And
is
they
still
did the
really
Dominican
incredible.
Republic and
Yeah.
somewhere else for hospitality.
missed
So if you got a chance to
opportunities.
study abroad,
Yeah,
it's
Yeah, I
the
know.
things that
I
some
love
people
wine.
do. They did fundraisers, and they even went as far as like just telling their church that they were trying to study abroad to make up for what. But talk to your teachers, know what outlets are available because the school will cover so much, financial aid will cover so much, and then it won't be that much that you have to come up with. So I would say if you can study abroad, study abroad.
That's a good one.
There's all kinds of scholarship money.
Mm-hmm. You just really gotta do the work and stay on top of it. Like the hardest thing for college with me was the after high school, your mom's not there. Like, hey, get up, time to go to school. Let me see your report card. You know, it's just all you. So you really have to know who you want to be and know the steps that you're willing to take to do that and do the work. You have to do the work to get there.
And we've talked a lot about networking, which is really important, but also, like, I can't get you a job, you have to get yourself the job. I can say that you're great. I've put in many a recommendation and many a good word for people, but unless you do the work, you're not going to get the job. It can't just be given to you. So you do have to work at it.
That's a good point.
Anything else from anybody? Okay, let's hear it for our panel.
We have a question.
Yeah, one more.
What?
One more.
Oh, sorry.
One question, and it's for Jeanne Marie. How would you say promoting Memphis has changed your life?
Oh my. Okay, so
I think
that's a
Alice
really
can answer
big
that question.
We're gonna have to go because we're gonna be here.
We're gonna be here for a long time. No, it's really made me appreciate Memphis a lot more. There was a hot second where I was like, man, I really wish that I had moved or gone somewhere else for college or tried something else. I love Memphis so much, and it's really, I mean, right now, and we were just talking about it right before this, Nashville is booming right now. You cannot go anywhere in Nashville and not see a building or some kind of construction, and if you look around, Memphis is getting that way as well, which is very exciting because Memphis, I'm so excited about the Convention Center girl, because that's part of us, so you should come more. But it's so important to know and to love where you live, and that's one of the biggest things that, so I'm the president of our alumni chapter. I really want everyone to stay in Memphis because we really are a great city and we're about to just take off. And so we want Memphians to stay here because when I go somewhere else and I ask someone, so I was in Chicago this summer, I asked my Uber driver, okay, I've been here a few times, what are some places that you think I can't miss? I did that in LA, Chicago, and San Diego this summer. None of my Uber drivers, and I asked almost every single Uber or Lyft driver, none of them could come up with anything. And it frustrated me to my core. I was like, how do you not know? Like, they're big cities, but you still have to have a favorite place.
How many people in here have ever been to Graceland?
I've never been.
See? Still never been to Graceland, and I'm from
Very
Memphis. So you'll just be
Yeah.
surprised. A lot of people say Memphis is really boring. They're like, there's nothing here. I want to move to Atlanta. I want to move to LA. Until I started working in the hospitality industry, I didn't know about all of the local restaurants. You got Downtown Dining Week. You got Burger Fest that I think you guys participate in. It's all type of festivals. Cooper
Yeah.
Young Festival, Hot Wing Festival, Memphis
Yeah.
in May Festival
Also,
is
Memphis
a year-long
was voted-
production.
It's
So-
huge. Memphis was voted one of the top 20 cities to visit in 2018, and that was for the entire world, and we were the only U.S. city on the list.
Yep.
So be very, very, very proud of where you're from, or where you live currently.
Sorry, a really quick question based off his, like, since your job is like to promote Memphis and stuff, how do you react to people when they make comments like, you know, about our reputation for, like, you know, bad crime and stuff, like, how do you respond and try to react to that?
I say every single time I say every city has crime, but you just have to know where you're, like, you're smart, you know? I had a lady when I was at the Westin who legitimately asked me, if I walk out the front door, will I get shot? And I was so tired of that, I was like, yeah, you will. I said it straight to her, and she was like, are you serious? And I was like, no. You're in
Why would
one
you
of-
ask that?
Right, exactly. So there's crime everywhere, but the other thing is we've done a lot of studies, and we've found that Memphians are the ones who are putting the bad taste in everyone's mouth. The further out from Memphis that you go,
People love
the
Memphis.
better the reputation. So, yeah. So if it's central, then we have to do our job as Memphians to say, no, this is why Memphis is great, and there's crime everywhere. but look at how great this is. And all of our good outweighs the bad.
And it's crazy because you would get no hospitality anywhere else like you do in Memphis. It's
No.
just something about Memphis hospitality. Whether you go to Atlanta, anywhere else down south, it's nothing like they say we're country, but they love it when they go, like, I love your accent. I'm like, what accent?
Yeah.
This is how I talk.
talking
But
about?
yeah, people love
People
Memphis
love
people.
Memphis, and people will continue to come back here, and it's a fun place to work because we have so much history and so much everything. It's just it's great.
Now can we clap? Oh, we got one more.
Yeah.